All right, we are live. We are live. Good afternoon, good day, everybody. Haki Ami, the Success Scholar. Hope you all are wonderful. It's a beautiful day. Happy Sunday. You're tuned in to the Success Scholar on raising consciousness and capital. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to join you here. This afternoon, I have a wonderful guest, and we have been trying to make this happen for quite some time, but it's just a great opportunity. I've heard this sister several times on the Carl Nelson show that I am a loyal listener and supporter of over the past few years. And she has come on and dropped tremendous knowledge in many different spaces, from legal to political. I've read about her story and listened to her story, and I think it's something that many of us who are active consciously and Black people who are conscious and understand the dynamics between politics and business and power, we need to be aware of, the federal spaces and the contractors, et cetera, et cetera. But recently, last month, we honored the late Pern J. Mitchell, uh, late Congressman Pern J. Mitchell, myself and brother Lou Fields. We had a series with several different individuals, his niece, and many different political individuals, as well as business individuals, people who've worked with him throughout their time. And many may not know that he was instrumental in founding and fighting for the federal 8A program and other federal set asides. He was known as the 101 senator. That's what they referred to him as. He was a strong lobbyist of the Senate for these set asides as well. And I have a sister joining me, and she has tremendous experience with federal contracts. And, her case, I believe, was so big that many of us need to be aware of it. So we're going to get into a conversation with Sister Jerrol Sanders. She had a company and, just had some issues. And that's an understatement to say you had some issues. So, Sister Jerrol, just thank you for joining me for this conversation. It's definitely something that, I saw the clip, but you're working on a movie as well to document this. So just open up and share a little bit about yourself, and we'll get to some questions, and but just open up for me and share just a little bit about
First of
yourself.
all, Haki, it is such a pleasure to be with you today, and I too am very happy that we were able to make this happen.
Hmm.
I started a company and was in business for over 8 years. It
Mm.
was a very vibrant company called The Writing Company. It was Gyra Consulting Inc., The Writing Company. We started out writing technical documentation, documenting computer systems. We
Mm.
developed training for worldwide training efforts. And we were serving Fortune 500 companies across the country. And, I made the decision as the president and CEO that we would expand that business. And of course, the federal contracting arena was where we focused on. And I
Mhm.
was an 8A certified contractor. This was my first federal contract. And it was historic
Mm.
because I received a contract after demonstrating my performance. It wasn't that someone handed it to me. I had to demonstrate my firm's ability to do the work. We did that and successfully landed the most high profile writing contract in the country as part of the plain language writing movement that has moved through our government to simplify documents and to make them easy, for normal people to understand. So
Mm.
it began with that 8A securing a contract that was had an estimated value of over $100 million. And
Mm.
the follow-on work would have continued until today. And I know that because the firm that ultimately received the contract that was given our contract, it was literally stolen from us and given to a white female who had no company at the time. She formed
Mm.
a company to get my contract, and
Wow.
she had no
Mm.
contract. and no really past performance work. I had 21 employees. She had none. And she walked
Mm,
away with my contract. And today, the last time I looked, she had made, I think it was over 100 million off of the contract.
wow. Wow. So now is that one of the two? No. So the two women that worked for the Treasury Department, that wasn't one of them, but they were kind of working with them on the side, right? Is what you're saying? They kind of
Exactly.
concocted this trilateral scheme between two federal Treasury employees or directors, and they were, in charge of the IRS. The Treasury is over the IRS, so they oversaw some of that, and so they basically saw what was going on and saw that this money was going to, a minority business, and so they said, okay, well, let's get a white woman in there who can be classified as a minority. Or it was that correct? Was this or what did they was this like you went through a did you go through a bidding process, or was it like what they call straight source or
It's a sole source. Again,
so
it was
sole
through
source?
the
Okay,
8A
yes.
program, but it was sole source because I actually wrote and designed the work process
Mm-hmm.
that the government put inside of the contract, because no one at
Okay.
IRS knew how this thing should work. To bring in an outside
Mm,
person, have her develop notices working with people inside of IRS, and how to keep that
mm-hmm.
project on task. So there was my project management experience that came into play, my
Mm-hmm.
ability to my knowledge of computer systems, which she didn't have. It turned out that you needed
Mm,
a really deep knowledge of computer systems, which I had developed after working for 7 years developing major systems for AT&T. And so what happened is
mm,
I secured the contract. It was actually illegal, even though Treasury had oversight over IRS. It was illegal for those two women who were presidential appointees. These were two women appointed by President Clinton.
mm-hmm.
These two women to be involved, they should never have been involved in the actual contracting process. That was to
Mm,
be an objective process. But what they did is they
mm,
aligned with two other white women who were working for Vice President Gore, and
mm,
this lady on the side, whom I didn't even know was there. They were working to take the contract from me. And everything they did to arrest it, it simply didn't work. We continued to perform on time, on schedule, and we were getting these glowing reviews across the agency.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. So, so bring it back. So you mentioned you said President Bill Clinton and Al Gore. So there was supposed to be a big outlay, type of, introducing what you've done to the world, which would probably have put you on a major level working with these different presidents and their contracts. So when did you start noticing that people were trying to hijack your operations?
It was really the first delivery. I had to deliver. They contracted with me via purchase order just to get it going, because I told them, look, we're not going to make this deadline if we don't get going. So there was a purchase order. With every contracting instrument, there has to be a delivery. So I was to bring the initial designs and rewrites over just to deliver them. It was just a formality. And then
Mm-hmm.
I would continue going. Well, when I flew into DC and delivered and arrived, I mean, Treasury had been over, I don't know how many times looking for these notices, right? From the Black contractor, I later learned. So when the
Mm-hmm.
notices were delivered, just everyone was up in angst, and you could just see the discomfort. And little by little, I began to see, they would cut the work. For example, if you can imagine the stage that President Biden had essentially the other night for the State of the Union. That
mm,
was sort of the type of stage I was to have with President Clinton and Vice President Gore in
mm,
presenting these notices to essentially the entire nation. And so
mm,
they began to go through the scope of work, and all of a sudden, all of this stuff would be, oh, we don't need that. Oh, we don't need that. And it was just, they were constantly cutting back on my scope of work. And so, and at one point, and this is in the movie, they try to sabotage the contract. Well, I shouldn't say at one point, it was just one constant sabotage. But one big thing they did is they brought a couple of competitors in to try to outperform me. And as those who watch the movie will note, that didn't work.
mhm,
They changed my critical timeline. They were always adjusting my timeline for something that Treasury wanted to do, little meaningless things, but trying to make me miss deadlines. We never missed a deadline. So that continued. And it just, when we continued to perform, they became bolder and bolder and bolder and bolder and bolder.
mhm, mm. Yes, yes, I definitely, yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. So bringing it up, and many people, so you are working on a film on this project to more so, is that going to be more documentary or more like, dramatization of your experiences?
Well, the 20-minute film on YouTube,
Oh,
it's a
okay, got
short
it.
film called
Yes.
My Empty Chair, the Jerrol Sanders story, is
Right.
the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
That
Okay. I
film
follow.
does not show, for example, three top government officials, head of procurement at IRS and Treasury, sitting in
Mm-hmm.
a meeting planning to call the Justice Department down on me, or to call or to take my thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars I'm owed. I mean, I actually have the meeting announcements from that kind of occurrence, of where they were calling over
Mm,
to FBI, trying to get to Treasury rather, to start launch an investigation or subpoena. They actually subpoenaed me before a grand jury on
mm-hmm.
contrived charges. Well, as
Mm,
soon as the federal agent staged a surprise visit to my business, it took them less than 30 minutes to realize they had been on a 1 year chase of nothing. So, what is so important about my encounter, and again, I think that the story has to be told in its entirety because it's been going on
mm-hmm.
for 20 plus years. There are
Mm,
a couple of takeaways here. Number
mm-hmm.
one, my firm performed with no deficiencies. We had been in business for 8 years and we were thriving, serving
Mm,
Fortune 500 companies across the country. So we were
mm-hmm.
thriving. Number two, when this occurred, and by the way, I want everyone to understand this was a historic contract. And
Mm,
when it occurred, I managed because there were people who didn't like what they saw. And these were some white people didn't like what they saw. When they
mm,
had to provide a file to me, when I tried to go to court, which I've never been allowed literally to bring my breach of contract claim into a court because the government knows that the evidence I have is so compelling that they don't
mm,
stand a chance. So I've never
mm,
been allowed. But
mm,
what it shows, my encounter reveals, is that when you are excellent, we surpass every audit, major government audit, no penny, not one penny out of place. When you come through with flying colors and you still can't get the FBI, you can't get a president, you can't get
mm,
anyone to take a look at this.
mm,
When you have overwhelming evidence, it is more than alarming. And this is especially why I say that. As
mm-hmm.
I prepared to go to court, and I had to go to court myself. In fact, I had someone at the
Mm,
courthouse ask me who was writing my legal briefs. I was writing my legal briefs. I'm a professional writer, and I also have a strong competency in law. But
mm-hmm.
what I read 100 cases because I
Mm,
didn't want to make mistakes. And I saw
Mm-hmm.
case after case after case where Black firms were put in the position of having their contracts taken for wrongful reasons. And then they did to them what they did to me, which is they withheld payments, and then they just stole about 400,000, just kept it, refused to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So they could
Mm,
cripple you and make it so
mm,
that you can't hire the legal counsel you need to defend yourself. And
right.
then they literally put these businesses out of business. So I say
Mm,
there's an entire, if you could see the number of Black businesses destroyed in the federal contracting arena, it is
mm,
absolutely mind blowing.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
I've written President Biden twice. I appealed to President Obama. President Obama, I actually communicated the day they were occupying the White House. I got through the lines. I talked with a young lady, Valerie Jarrett's secretary.
mm,
She advised the president of what had happened. And the person, one of the individuals who was responsible for this, had just been appointed by President Obama as what he called his most important appointee ever. She was going to
mm,
be the chief performance officer of the federal government, and she was going to go through and cut, and find ways to increase efficiency, which is
mm-hmm,
exactly what I do in my professional capacity.
mm-hmm,
When that information got to the White House, to Kathy Branch, who routed it over, I got a call a few weeks later after I had sent out a national press release notifying that I was calling for the Obama administration to have Nancy Killefer step down. I got a call asking me, Miss Sanders, did you see that Nancy Killefer stepped down? And she did, over some little small made up tax issue that had happened like 8 years ago that she had resolved 8 years ago. I mean, it was something minor, but it was clearly the excuse used because I made it clear that when she went before the Senate, I was going to be before the Senate. I was going to challenge her appointment, and President Obama knew that would be a problem. So she stepped down, but he did nothing to resolve this long-standing problem. And I am going to continue. If I have to stand in front of the White House with a banner that stretches all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue, I
mm,
want this matter addressed, and I will tell you why.
mm, mm-hmm,
As Black people, the appointment of Kamala Harris, that's great. The appointment of our new Supreme Court jurist, that's great. But
mm-hmm,
until you deal with a racist underbelly, a system
mm,
that functions like a glass ceiling that separates Black people from justice, until we can
mm,
crack that, we will never have economic parity in this country. I
mm-hmm,
am
mm,
owed over $500 million. I lost a U.S.
mm,
patent. My company was destroyed. My
yeah,
reputation was maligned, where everyone in my community thinks that I was engaged in fraud when I did everything that I did was above board and not one penny in place. I mean, they
mm,
even interfered with my efforts to secure additional federal contracts. So
mm-hmm,
it was just, they stole, like I said, over $400,000 from me. So it's
mm,
just, and not to mention the destruction of the contract and the foregone revenue that Susan Kleiman, who has made, and I think she originated from Canada. So, it's something that my case, in my mind, it is a case that can be leveraged to bring attention to what's happening, not just to
mm,
me, but to businesses, Black businesses across the federal contracting landscape.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. No, you opening up a lot of questions for me, or at least concerns in terms of just how big this potentially is. And I sit on a board of the Maryland Legislative Black Caucus Foundation um, on a state level, and our stated goal, for instance, is to strictly to advocate for Black people in the state of Maryland. And you mentioned the as you reached out to the former presidents, as well as recently President Biden and President Obama. And, when we think about on a federal level who's supposed to stand for us, the Congressional Black Caucus comes to mind. And I know you said you've spoken to several Congress individuals as well as the Congressional Black Caucus. Can you share in terms of, that experiences, if any of them took even a basic interest in this case?
Not even a basic interest. The day my
Mm,
contract was terminated, which by the way was in surprise fashion, I was asked to come to Washington, given no advance notice as to why I was being asked. They
mm-hmm,
wanted, again, it was the injury they wanted to witness, right? They wanted to witness the assault. There were people in the room who didn't need to be there. And because I guess I
mm,
had exhibited a certain amount of strength in that all that they had done hadn't slowed me down or crippled me or whatever. So they thought the final blow, we want to witness this,
mm-hmm,
this racial assault, right? So
mm-hmm,
I left the meeting. I spent the night. I remember going over to Union Station and buying an outfit because I brought just clothes to come up and to go back. And so I got an outfit and I immediately went to the Hill. I
mm-hmm,
I have reached out over the years to just about every Congressional Black Caucus, to anyone who's been up there for any length of time. I'd
mm-hmm,
say who's been up there 10 years, whatever. Even my own, Congress people, John Conyers, who voted for me. I like John, but he voted for me. And when I vied to become mayor of Detroit, never touched it. I mean, this was for whatever reason, and this is what I'm saying, we have to get to the bottom of this as a race of people. We need
mm,
to understand why it is that our elected leaders do not get engaged in cases like this. I can
mm,
remember walking into offices. I had documents that I prepared. I even prepared this. It was a 6-page graphically designed pamphlet, 8.5 by 11. It was this wide, right?
mm,
We handed at least, I mean, literally thousands and thousands and thousands of them out,
mm,
all
mm,
through Congress, all through on the White House lawn. I mean, all up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. I named
mm,
names. I named Treasury Inspector General David Williams. Federal investigators, agency heads were engaged in a far-reaching conspiracy to cover up and conceal the taking of this lucrative contract. And today, not one person in Congress, not one person has said, we need to bring this into the light and we need to discover what happened here. And we need to bring Black contractors before Congress and have hearings to hear how these contractors are faring in the federal procurement arena. But in the meantime, Claire McCaskill, senator from Missouri, Elaine Chao, Dick Cheney, all of these officials, walk away with these multi-million dollars and billion-dollar contracts and hand them to their friends. And these contracts are being funded with our tax dollars. And they hand us, for the most part, these minor contracts. Mine wasn't. Mine was an exception, which SBIA was so excited about. But they hand us these minor contracts, get our intellectual property, and then destroy our firms. And no
mm,
one is saying anything. Not
mm,
one word.
mm,
And so people who tell me, oh, you should, you should move on, you should get over it. No, I'm not going to get over this. I
mm,
want justice. I want my money. I want this system fixed. And by the way, I have been thinking about how some of the things we need to do to fix it. So I want this brought into the open, and I want everyone who is listening to me to view my film on YouTube. It's called My Empty Chair, space
Mhm.
the Jerroll Sanders, Sanders story. Or you can find it at Jerrol, Jerroll Sanders.com/movie. I want you to watch it. I want you to share it. And I want you to align with me to bring my issue to the forefront. And when I say my issue, because when we bring mine to the forefront, you better believe I'm bringing everyone else's to the forefront with me.
Mm. Yes, yes, beautiful. Okay, so I saw that, and I think that has, yeah, what your 20 minute clip has 82,000 viewers, and I thought I saw the 1 hour one. I saw parts of it, but
No, it's
yeah.
there's the trailer, and then there's
Hmm.
the trailer is like a minute, and then the 21-minute one is the short film. That
Okay.
is the short film, and I'm hoping that the entire 20-year saga will be made into a series of full-length movies, because it's important for our children to see how the excellence, our accounting excellence, and the excellence in our firm, our knowledge of what we were doing, how it actually safeguarded me from being
Hmm.
incarcerated, because that's what they were trying to do when they subpoenaed me before a grand jury. They couldn't get me legally, right? So they were going to contrive some stuff to cause me to be incarcerated on false
Hmm.
charges. But that didn't work either, because they didn't know that we had such a good grasp of accounting and our systems were in such excellent condition. So I'd love for
Hmm.
our kids to see how our excellence protected us from the harm that the government really wanted to exact upon us.
Hmm. Yes, yes. I think. I mean, all your how you've been pushing, is good, just in terms of, you planted the seeds with the Congressional Black Caucus. I think, ultimately, like you're doing here, it's just a consistent thing. But ultimately, someone has to have, somebody in some position. These Congressional Black Caucus members certainly should address it. And it's like, I know you don't want to sometimes feel like you gotta get a bullhorn and yell in somebody's ear, to wake them up and get their attention. But ultimately, when there's different levels of injustices, desperate times calls for desperate measures. And so I applaud, you taking the steps that you have, of course, and I'm going to send this to a few people in the state of Maryland, on a state level, especially when people are talking about running for Congress. Um, from my representatives, Mr. Kwesi Mfume in the state of Maryland, and we have in the state of Maryland uh, Congressman Anthony Brown. He's running for uh, the state's what is it, Attorney General in the state of Maryland. I know that's more statewide, but I think there are definitely related things that are going on, that these are the people who should be uh, standing up. And me being on a caucus foundation, for instance, I'm definitely going to share it to my board members and let them know. I know it's not in the state of Maryland, but I know that there are a significant amount of black businesses, because I'm aware of a sister in New York who was the president, I believe, of the Buffalo Chamber of Commerce, and I think the Harlem Chamber of Commerce a little later. But she shared similar things on a state level, so I can almost imagine systematically how it can happen on a federal level when you're talking about big contracts. So I know that the resistance is going to be more sophisticated, and the challenge to you is going to be sophisticated. So just know that you know, even though, you know, I didn't reach out immediately, you know, people are listening, and I appreciate Carl Nelson, you know, continuing to have you on. I'm gonna let him know I interviewed you, and continue to push this as an issue. And so we will be in touch. But if you have anything else you think that the audience need to hear, of course, you know, you can just share. But I think you did a magnificent job and gave people the gist. And of course, I'll post the link to this. I'm sorry, the link to your film in this, and that's how we have to do. We gotta, you know, hit different audiences, strategic audiences, and sometimes get that bullhorn ready.
Well,
Right?
Haki, you said something about the bullhorn. I
Mm-hmm.
began this process thinking that the information and this compelling evidence that I have would be enough to
Yes.
attract attention. And you get
Mm,
louder and louder and louder and louder. And then you get to the
mm,
point that you realize that no one can hear you because there's
mm,
this ceiling separating you from everyone else. Now, white women can permeate that ceiling, right? And white people
mm,
can permeate that ceiling. But there's almost nothing you can do because it's like Judge Taney said with Dred Scott. The black
mm.
man has no rights that the white man is bound to respect.
Respect.
And that's
Yes. Yes.
what's
Yes.
been echoed to me over and over and over and over again
Mm,
as I have
mm,
pursued this for 21 years. Now, some people are like, well, shouldn't you give up by now? No,
mm.
I'm not. Because you know what? What I experienced 21 years ago is still happening today. And somebody
Right.
yesterday or the day before was called into a room and their contract was taken, but not just their contract, their innovations, their intellectual property,
Mm,
the things
mm,
of value that they created with their mental capacity and with their skill set. And so, this, I would just encourage those who are listening to me. This is, yes, it is my issue, but this is your issue too. And the
that's
day
right.
we begin to see how we're connected, I always say we're links along the same chain,
Mm,
tug and pull together, and we all will make our climb. Right
mm,
now, every person who hears my voice should be outraged that an
mm,
African American with the kind of evidence that I have cannot
mm,
get one leader, not one black leader in this nation, to step out and do anything except for one person, I will say. Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West told me, use
mm,
my name any way you want. He is the
mm.
only person in 21 years of stature
Wow.
who
Wow.
said, you use my name in any way you want. And that's a tall charge. So
Mm,
I encourage your listeners to please, or viewers, to look at my film, My Empty Chair, share it. YouTube stopped me from advertising. They said it's campaign advertising. It's not. But some of the people who are involved are now sitting on boards of Facebook, and I've already asked for them to step down. Facebook ignored me, so I'm going to have to take that up another level too. So
mm,
yes, please watch a film, and do engage yourself in helping to insist that we create a contracting arena where it's fair, where millionaires are literally made overnight.
mm. Yes. 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 Definitely. Definitely. And I will be. I'm considering going to the National Action Network's uh, conference for the first time in April in New York. It's April 6th through the 9th. Uh, so I have to look at it, but this would be something to that, as you said, I don't know if Reverend Al Sharpton, uh, you know, apparently, I mean,
I've been
of
there
course,
too. Just so you know,
mhm,
NAACP, Urban League,
yeah,
National, everywhere possible.
hmm
No,
hmm
not one voice of help. Dr. Cornel
hmm
West is the only person who actually extended his hand and said, use my name any way you want.
beautiful. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I appreciate that. I've done moderated a discussion with Cornel West in DC a few years ago. So it's good to hear that, and that he's been on the right side of issues, you know, throughout
Always.
his life. So, so
Yes.
that's good to hear. And so I thank you for making this. We put it together, and it's definitely an honor and a pleasure. So let's keep up the fight, and I got your back. And as long as I'm living, we can keep bringing this issue up. All right.
Well, thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure. And don't
All
forget to
right.
share the link with me.
Yes, will do. Of course, of course.
Okay.
Thank you, and have a good
Take
evening. All right.
take care. Bye
This
bye.
is Bye.